A Rolex costs more than a car, yet it's worth nearly the same 10 years later while your car's worth half. That gap between depreciation and durability isn't an accident. It's the result of three interlocking systems: scarcity by design, obsessive craftsmanship, and a brand mythology so powerful it's become self-reinforcing. Understanding why a luxury watch holds its value means understanding how luxury itself is manufactured and maintained. Let's start with the obvious question: why does a watch cost $50,000 in the first place? The mechanics, springs, jewels, escapements aren't dramatically more expensive to produce than a $5,000 watch. So where's the money actually going? The answer starts with time. A luxury watch's movement, the internal mechanism, takes months or years to assemble and regulate. Each component is finished by hand, polished, beveled, decorated in ways a machine simply cannot replicate. A movement on a bench for 3 months isn't cheaper, it's more expensive. But here's where it gets interesting. That level of craftsmanship could theoretically be commodified. You could teach 100 watchmakers the same techniques. So why hasn't the price collapsed? Because the second system kicks in: scarcity. Luxury manufacturers produce far fewer watches than the market demands. A brand like Patek Philippe manufactures around 60,000 watches per year, globally. Compare that to the millions of smartphones, cars, or even mechanical watches made by other producers. The supply is deliberately constrained. Why would a profitable company intentionally leave money on the table? Because scarcity doesn't just raise the price, it raises the status. If everyone could buy a Patek Philippe, it wouldn't be a Patek Philippe anymore. The exclusion is the product. This scarcity creates a waiting list that can span years. You walk into a boutique with cash in hand, and you still might wait 5 years for the watch you want. That friction, that inaccessibility, is intentional architecture. It makes ownership feel earned, not purchased. Now here's the payoff. When supply is scarce and demand is high, the secondary market, people selling their watches, becomes a price floor. A watch that cost $50,000 new might sell for $48,000 used. The gap is small because there's a waiting list of people willing to buy it. A new car depreciates because the moment you drive it off the lot, there are thousands of identical ones available. A used Rolex appreciates because there's a queue of people who couldn't get one new. Scarcity flips the depreciation curve, but scarcity alone isn't enough to maintain value. A rare broken thing is worthless. So the third system matters: the brand's commitment to durability and repair. Luxury watch manufacturers service watches for decades, sometimes centuries. A Rolex from 1960 can walk into a boutique today and be serviced. Parts are available. Documentation is kept. The watch isn't treated as disposable. That permanence, that refusal to make watches obsolete, is radical in a world built on planned obsolescence. This durability narrative becomes part of the brand story. Rolex watches went to the summit of Everest. They went to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. The watches survived because they were built to survive. That mythology, that heritage, gets priced into every new watch sold. And here's the loop that completes itself. Because the watches hold value, people treat them as heirlooms instead of disposables. Your grandfather's watch becomes your watch. That intergenerational transfer creates emotional attachment, which reinforces the brand mythology, which maintains scarcity's power. The brand has essentially created a financial asset that functions like property. You don't just own a watch, you own a stake in a system that guarantees its scarcity and serviceability. Break that system, and the value collapses. If Rolex suddenly started making 1 million watches a year, the waiting lists would vanish. Secondary market prices would plummet. The heirloom narrative would evaporate. The entire value structure depends on constraint. So when you see a $50,000 watch holding its value a decade later, you're not just seeing craftsmanship or materials. You're seeing scarcity weaponized, mythology monetized, and a brand that spent decades convincing the world and itself that its watches are worth preserving forever. That's why luxury watches don't depreciate like cars. The systems keeping them valuable aren't accidents, they are engineered. And understanding that engineering is understanding how luxury itself stays liquid. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe to keep uncovering the hidden economics behind the things we think we understand. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.